Right, here we go. 88 OBS Chevy truck, Goodguys giveaway on a Low-Pro chassis. Very first one. Hey up, hey up, hey up. Hey up, hey up, hey up. Hey up, hey up, hey up. For all the viewers out there, I'm wearing this seatbelt for you. I drove a OBS Z71 Chevy pickup for the first 5 years of my driving career, starting at age 16, and I didn't even know these things had seatbelts, but safety first. So, got quite a few miles on this thing. The Goodguys team has had it, cruising it from show to show, about to roll 3,000 miles just before this gets given away to some lucky individual coming up at the Goodguys Columbus Nationals. How does this truck drive? Unbelievable. Okay, this is totally out of the realm of our typical chassis. This one I was super excited about. All brand new suspension geometry, stuff that's never been designed, used, implemented, anything in our industry. Getting behind the wheel for this the very first time, blown away. Had a vision in my head with the trailing arm rear, independent rear suspension, airbags, the rocker arm Fox Ride Tech shocks on all four corners, nailing motion ratios. Really had a good vibe, set out to make this thing ride like a luxury car, and it exceeded my expectations 100%. Mike O'Brien spent countless months working on this chassis design, and it is clean slate. So up front, C7 Corvette upright. We manufacture, machine in-house, super drop steering arm to get the steering rack down quite low to get motor placement on the money. And what that does is it gets us just enough ground clearance, but at the same time, it also gets us just about every popular transmission under the factory trans tunnel. So what does that mean? It means you can call up LMC, put a stock carpet kit in it. Means you can get through your build a whole hell of a lot easier because it's a lot less fabrication. This particular truck set up with a GM crate motor, LS3, 480 horse. Behind that is a Bowler 4L60E transmission. Great package for just an all-around cruiser. In my opinion, it suits this truck quite well. I'm not looking for any scream or any big crazy horsepower. To me, this gets it done. Phenomenal truck to jump in, use, daily drive, anything you want to do with it. How do you make a LS3 look era appropriate? Take a look at it. Billet Specialties valve covers, small block Chevy adapters. Once again, Billet Specialties was building rad stuff at the time when this style was popular, and they're still building rad stuff today. Those parts are available. We milled into those factory Billet Specialties valve covers, gave them a little bit more style with some RS love in them, and sitting right on top of it is a Holley air cleaner, right? Naturally aspirated. What do you do? Because you're past that Survivor era where it's kind of cool to dress something up like a big block. You don't want to put all the plasticky emissions looking crap on the top of the motor. Those were cool back in the day, right? That was, again, something that I saw in the hot rod publications back in the 90s. So we adapted it to a drive-by-wire throttle body that's sitting on top of a Holley carb style intake manifold, and really did our best to just give the motor some character, and I think it suits the truck well. Back to the front suspension. So the big shocker right out of the gate for these, you'd think being a more modern truck, right? Most of the stuff we did kind of cuts off in the late 70s, early 80s. You know, now we're into bigger bodied, more modern truck cabs. So one would think you've got a lot more track width. You do not, okay? That was the biggest hurdle that we faced in this, is the hub-to-hub track width, being able to actually steer it. There's been a handful of these trucks done, and they look cool going down the highway in a straight line. Bear in mind, when you drive something, there's turns in the road. You got to be able to put it into parking spaces. You'll be able to pull it into your garage, pull it in and out of the trailer all the things that just have to happen when you drive a vehicle. What we were able to accomplish is package a 275 on a 22 up front, so it's a 9.5-inch wide wheel. You get full turning radius on this. To accomplish that, we put together a tin kit as well, so a couple modifications that need to be done regardless. Anytime you lower one of these OBS trucks is a large diameter front wheel and tire gets into the toe board. Okay, right at the clipping point when that starts turning, you'll just catch the corner of that toe board. So we laser cut, fabricate a front and a rear. Fronts are bolt in, rears are weld in. Those are available when you purchase a chassis. Makes the install a heck of a lot easier on a customer. The rear, we integrated a fuel filler right into it. Rock Valley 28-gallon fuel tank, stainless steel out back, GM fuel pump in the tank, connect and cruise package, and that wheel and tire package, and their Billet Specialties front and rear, a part of their Boulevard collection. 22 by 9.5 up front, 24 by 11 out back. I believe we're a 355, 35 out back. Big tire. I mean, a lot of meat out back, looks super cool. These trucks, because they're kind of a big body, it takes that diameter and that meat to fill it up. When we engineered this chassis, kind of started out back knowing that trucks of this era, when guys are lowering them and guys are doing some high-end builds, there's one particular tire that can often be challenging, but it's also a really cool tire, and it's a 405 on a 24-inch wheel. So I believe it mounts on a 24 by 15, and when we built those trailing arms, engineered them out back, that was taken into consideration. So that's the max wheel and tire fitment that we can package on there, but it's the max wheel and tire that exists, period. Huge. The front suspension is unique. Anytime you're doing an airbag suspension, an actual convoluted bag, you face shock packaging issues. It's always a compromise. So shocks work best when you optimize the motion ratio. Further out to that ball joint that you can get the pivot point of your shock, the more accurate that shock's going to be, better the ride quality, the more effective the valving is going to be in that particular shock. So to accomplish that, we use a pretty cool little lever and push rod system, and the shocks actually sit parallel to the frame rails, and they sit right up just behind the front core support and make for killer ride quality. Utilizing a C7 knuckle on the front lets us use any of Bayer's popular brake packages. This particular one's got some monster 14.5-inch 6 pistons on it, color coded to the truck. Bayer does a great job at offering all sorts of unique colors. Our go-to guys for brake packages. Truck stops phenomenally well. The remainder of the chassis, the concept out of the gate, the concept really came from what can you possibly do on a pickup truck chassis that doesn't require cutting the hell out of the bed and rendering the bed basically useless, okay? After driving my Legend Series square body truck for a long time, I got quite the appreciation for having an actual bed in my pickup, because I get to do things like you do when you own a pickup truck. Throw stuff in the back, haul stuff. It's useful to have. And this truck, looking in the bed right behind me, you can see the height. We dressed it up a little bit, but the height of the bed floor itself, completely unchanged, bone stock. Seems fairly mind-blowing to be able to accomplish that while you can set the frame rails of this truck just about a ½ inch off the ground. So really the lowest ride height that anybody would ever desire, and at the same time you don't touch the height of your rear bed floor. Fairly mind-blowing for anything that's not a front wheel drive vehicle, and that took a tremendous amount of design, engineering, fabrication. This is not an entry-level chassis. It is not considered basically, you know, a budget chassis, something like that. It is top of the line, okay? There's a very unique trailing arm system out back that uses a long trailing arm that mounts a convoluted bag. Just like the front, we've got a rocker arm shock with plenty of stroke in it, great motion ratios, and we're able to adjust toe and caster camber, all that, wheelbase even, done through neat little eccentric washers, really cool little toe adjustment that's on the outer knuckle itself. So when you're looking at the rear suspension on this, it's unlike anything else that's on the road, unlike anything else that's offered. The result of it, aside from keeping your bed floor, is absolutely kick-ass ride quality. It transfers weight great, it accelerates great, it handles great. It does really anything that you want it to do. I mean, adequate sway bar out back, so it's got a lot of roll rate in it, front and rear, big DOM bars, so it does have a performance feel to it. Is it recommended for going out and doing autocross stuff? Not necessarily the intention of it. Can you do it? Sure, but this truck is best suited for doing exactly what I'm doing right now, cruising down some windy roads, driving it and having fun with it. You know, let me remind you, it is a Goodguys giveaway, so this was built in conjunction with Goodguys Rod and Custom Association, and a lot of sponsored parts. So we're fortunate to work with a lot of great vendors, guys who we use on just about every build that we do. So right in front of me, I'm looking at a Dakota Digital RTX cluster. For all intents and purposes, it's the off-the-shelf unit that if you call them, that is the exact cluster that you get. The difference being is that we've got this kind of cool 80s, 90s vibe going with this truck, and to complement that, you can't just have a stock looking cluster. So our boys over at Dakota Digital were nice enough to take some artwork that we gave them and whip up a really cool gauge face on this. Love it at night. It backlights, the illumination is teal and pink, matches the truck. You know, makes me want to strap on my old rollerblades and go do some 90s stuff. It's just such a throwback vehicle. I know that my brother and Josh are probably going to bring up the rollerblade comment, and I'm going to eat my words on that, so I'll let Elliot decide if we're going to edit that out or not. I take enough abuse, so we'll see where that goes. Walking through the rest of the truck, vintage air, Gen 4 unit in it, great AC. AC's on right now, windows are up. Truck is absolutely silent and freezing cold with the AC running about half blast on the blower. Below it, we integrated a kicker. I believe that's a KMC5 head unit, which the packaging of that's really cool, and it fits shockingly well in the constraints of that OBS dash bezel. So it was a pretty simple little sheet metal panel that packages the AC controls, which is a universal slider from Vintage Air, along with that KMC head unit. Great Bluetooth deal. You can wire in a backup cam. The interface is just so easy. The display is great. Really an awesome piece. Next to that, everybody asks about the illuminated equalizer, right? It's flashing. It's got all sorts of cool colors. It's just a throwback piece, man. It is something that I always remember in these trucks. I've had a few of them, grew up, it's my era. Anybody that's been around them, you know there was always an equalizer. It was an option, right? There was an equalizer there. And we took it one step further, threw a little bit more 80s, 90s flair on it. It does integrate the subwoofer control on it, so it does serve a purpose. Mostly it just looks really cool. Neat thing about these 80s, you know, starting at, what, 88, you're into something that's a little more modern, so there's a lot of stuff that's very usable. Stock AC vents work really, really good, easy to connect to. Really an easy truck to build. I mean, ergonomically, they sit great. This is a factory seat with an LMC cover on it. You sit really, really good in the truck. Steering wheel was an easy selection, okay? If you ever picked up a trucking magazine, any automotive publication back in the 90s, you would know that there was not just a Billet Specialties ad, but there was a Billet Specialties complete catalog in those magazines. So I can remember as a teenager looking at this stuff thinking, man, is that cool, right? So finally given the chance to use something of that era. Billet Specialties is pretty cool because they still offer all those designs from back in that era. They've just scaled them up. So the same wheel designs, just bigger, same steering wheel designs, but now smaller. And it's a half wrap billet wheel, leather wrap to match the interior. Pedals on it came from Low-Car, so a ball milled, era correct brake and throttle pedal that connects right to a bracket that we machine for a GM drive-by-wire throttle pedal. Air management on it is Accuair. So sitting on the floor right here is our E-level Accuair controller. Always been a fan of this Accuair stuff, man. This thing works so good. Controls are easy to use, up, down, level it. Does have ride height sensors, self-leveling. All in all, great system. Makes the truck really nice to own, really nice to use. We took the party out back, right? This thing's meant to be cool, look cool, do cool shit with it, right? So out back, we spiced this thing up, and we worked with my buddy Tim at Aquagrip, local in town here, that he cut all the foam mat for the bed. So Chris Gray in-house here designed that all to have, again, very 80s, 90s vibe to it. Inspiration taken from some jet skis of that era, and put a really bitchin' little old school Roadster Shop logo right in the middle of it. And it keeps the bed usable, great for tailgating. Parked some more kicker speakers out and back with an additional kicker controller. So if you're tailgating, you've got a standalone system that can operate right there from the tailgate of the truck. That's one of the neat thing about these, these kicker head units. They come from the marine industry. This particular application does. So you can piggyback multiple controllers on it, which is really cool for an application like this. Yeah, man, we're counting down the days until it gets given away, and I am kind of, got mixed emotions. Another one that I don't want to let go. Fortunate thing is that when you work with guys like Goodguys, they allow us to do our thing, and we weren't met with any resistance, any criticism on the badass 90s general styling of this truck. So very progressive on their behalf, and we had a hell of a lot of fun building it. I think it resonates with a lot of people my age. A lot of fun, man. A lot of fun to build. And for guys watching this, it's probably not as epic as me doing burnouts in a 79 Camaro or doing whole shots in a 1,000 horsepower supercharged car. It is meant to be like kind of sort of no frills because it just goes down the road beautifully. Certainly capable of handling more horsepower if you want to throw some at it, but to me, this is built exactly how one of these should be built. I think it's truly a testament to that Low-Pro chassis. That really makes this thing, in my opinion. Such an unbelievable ride quality, fun to drive, responsive. Everything that we set out to do with that chassis, I believe we accomplished it and then some. It really knocked it out of the park. Chassis itself integrates a lot of build components in it as well. So all the air ride, air suspension components. We've got a tank kit, brackets for just about everything that you would want to integrate into this chassis, battery mounts that bolt up to the bed, the rails, the structure on the actual bed floor. So we've got tandem Optima batteries in this particular truck, just right at the front side of the bed. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about on this, which I'm sure is controversial, but I don't really give a shit. These two little lights right here, these switches. We've got bed lights and we've got underglow, okay? Now we've got pink graphics on this truck. We've got some pink details all throughout it. How do you set that off? It's obvious. Pink underglow LED lights, okay? This thing at night, let me tell you, I did have those in my 95 Z71 truck. Cruising down the street at 18 years old, blasting Sammy Kershaw, and I've got my blue light in the back, feeling really fucking cool, okay? Dude, I'm telling you, at night, you fire on that underglow. We've got the lights under the bed rails in the bed of the truck, under the hood as well. This thing just looks super, super rad. Low-Pro chassis is really the ultimate for these trucks. It is the top of the line. We do have a spec chassis for them as well. Totally different style frame, great riding, great handling, great performing piece. Bed floor modifications required out back. Killer price point, great product for the money. Can't beat it for the investment. Check it out, jump on our website. Lots of good content on this truck, lots of great coverage. If you're in the market for an OBS chassis, the Low-Pro fits your budget, man, you gotta have one. If it doesn't, check out the spec chassis.